Thank you, Madam Clerk. I will call the meeting to order. Welcome, everybody. Nice May night. I'll start off by reading the land acknowledgement statement. We acknowledge with respect to history, spirituality, and culture of the Anishinaabe, the people of the Three Fires known as Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi nations who have inhabited this land from time immemorial. And further give thanks to Chippewa Saugeen, Chippewa Nawash, now known as the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, as the traditional keepers of this land. We also recognize the Métis and Inuit whose ancestors shared this land and these waters. May we all, as treaty people, live with respect on this land and live in peace and friendship with all its diverse people. Moving on to the agenda. Madam Clerk, Council, is there any items to be added to the agenda here tonight? See none? I'll read the recommendation then, that the agenda be approved as presented. Somebody move it on the floor, please. Councilor Sutherland, second by Councilor Pringle. Any discussion on the motion before us? See none, a show of hands, all in favor? This carried. Welcome, Councilor Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sorry I'm late, everybody.
Okay, we are down to declaration of peculiar interest. You can declare anytime you see fit during the meeting. Our next item is announcements. And I wonder, Councilor Sloan, would you want to speak to this item since you're very involved in sports? Without putting you on the spot?
Yeah, no, that's quite all right. Yeah, the Shaw Lake Minor Hockey System had a really fantastic year this year. We just actually had the awards banquet on the weekend. So the Shaw Lake U18 rep team went to the All Ontarios and became second place, which is quite a feat just to get there. And our U11 Shaw Lake Lakers, they won the WOAA championship and the All Ontario championship. So they were all there on Saturday with their red hats on, and yeah, a little parade through Shaw Lake beforehand. So it's quite nice. And maybe I'll let the clerk speak to the other two. That's all right. I don't know those ones.
I do not know Gus Bolton. That is just a fantastic achievement he has done. Gold medalist, Skate Ontario Provincial Championship. So congratulations, Gus. And the Owen Sound Founders Gold Medalist, Ontario Senior Games Hockey Tournament. Sorry, I do not know anything about it, but go ahead, Grant, please. Councilor Pringle.
Yeah, I can speak to this a little bit. The Owen Sound Flounders is 65 and older guys, and basically the Owen Sound area. A lot of these guys play in the Puffer League and in the Men's Industrial League here in town. So it was a great achievement by these guys. They've been going to this tournament for years, and yeah, they come home with the gold this time. So they the championship game, they won 2-1. So I do see a lot of these guys on Wednesday nights, and congrats to the Owen Sound Flounders.
Well, thank you very much for that, Councilor Pringle. And congratulations to all our local athletes on their notable achievements. Job well done. We're now down to public hearings. The recommendation is that the regular meeting of Committee of the Whole be recessed to host a public hearing for application 4202540, OPA 14, Z0422, and SP 0222 for a property located at unassigned Grade Road 18. Someone to move, put on the floor, please. Moved by Deputy Mayor Carleton, second by Councilor Colburn. Is there any discussion on the motion before us? See none, a show of hands, all in favor? Opposed? The motion is carried. This joint public meeting has been called to consider official plan amendment OPA 14 zoning bylaw amendment application Z0422 for property located described as part lot 16 concession 5 registered plan 16R10169 part 3. Madam Clerk, please advise the method by which the public meeting was given.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As required by Section 17 and 34 of the Planning Act as amended, council shall ensure that at least one public meeting is held, notice of which shall be given in the manner and to the persons and public bodies containing the prescribed information. In accordance with the Planning Act and the implementing regulations, the County of Grey gave notice of this public meeting on behalf of the township and the county by individual prepaid first-class mail to persons within 120 meters based on the most recent assessment information provided by MPAC, the Municipal Property Assessment Corporation, and to an extensive list of agencies as set out in the regulations. A sign was also posted on the property. The public meeting notice is posted on the county website and the Township of Georgian Bluffs website. It is imperative to note that if a person or a public body would otherwise have an ability to appeal the decision of the County of Grey or the Township of Georgian Bluffs in reference to the official plan and zoning bylaw amendment to the Ontario Land Tribunal, but the person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to Grey County or the Township of Georgian Bluffs before the plan amendments are decided upon, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decisions and may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the Ontario Land Tribunal, unless, in the opinion of the tribunal, there are reasonable grounds to do so. If you wish to be notified of the decision of the proposed official plan and zoning bylaw amendments, you must make a written request to the County of Grey at 595 9th Avenue East, Owen Sound, Ontario, N4K 3E3, or the Township of Georgian Bluffs at 177964 Grey Road 18, Owen Sound, Ontario, N4K 5N5. Alternatively, you can also send an email to Jen Burnett, Municipal Planner, or Becky Hillier, County Planner. Both Jen and Becky's email addresses can be found on the mailed public meeting notice.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Madam Planner, please proceed with your review of the applicant.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, everyone. As this is a joint public meeting to consider applications for a county official plan amendment and township zoning bylaw amendment, I would like to introduce county planning staff present this evening. Monica Scribner is here, who will be taking minutes on behalf of the county. And additionally, we have planners Becky Hillier and Scott Taylor with us in council chambers this evening. Joining us virtually, we have property owners Ken and Mark Hutton, and their planner, Christine Loft. Hutton & Co. Land and Shore is an existing landscaping company in Georgian Bluffs looking to expand their business. They have acquired a 50-acre parcel immediately south of the Coca-Cola property, which happens to be 2 lots down from the municipal office here. In order to operate the landscaping business on that property, the county official plan designation and the township zoning need to be amended to include a landscaping business as a permitted use. A site plan control application was submitted and is being processed concurrently with the 2 amendment applications, however, is not being considered this evening. In support of the applications, the applicant submitted a number of studies and reports, including an environmental impact study, a stormwater management plan, and a planning justification report. The reports and studies are listed in the staff information report and are attached to the agenda package this evening. I would also note that the documents are also posted on the county and township websites. The 50-acre property is designated as rural and wetlands in the county official plan. The purpose and effect of the official plan amendment would be to redesignate approximately 17 acres of the rural portion of the subject lands to a space-extensive industrial and commercial designation. No development is proposed within the provincially significant wetland designation, but some development would occur within the lands adjacent to the wetland. The lands are zoned rural and environmental protection in the Township of Georgian Bluffs zoning bylaw. The zoning bylaw amendment would implement the official plan amendment excuse me, and rezone that same portion of the property from rural to highway commercial site specific. So it'd be a C4 site specific zone. And there's no change proposed to the area of the property zoned environmental protection. The site specific C4 zone would also permit additional uses, including open storage, accessory bulk sales establishment, and contractor's yard. A front yard setback of 17.5 meters, where a 20-meter setback is required, and a maximum building height of 11.5 meters where 10 meters is permitted. The following agency comments have been received to date. Enbridge Gas, note that they do have service lines running within the area which may or may not be affected by the proposed plan. Should the proposed site plan impact these services, it may be necessary to terminate the gas service and relocate the line according to the new property boundaries. Any service relocation required would be at the cost of the property owner. If there is any work required at their easement or near any existing facilities, please contact that agency as early as possible with 1 month in advance at least, so that they can exercise engineering assessment of the work. The purpose is to ensure the integrity of their main is maintained and protected. The Township of Georgian Bluffs Building Department, the Deputy Chief Building Official reviewed the GM Blue Plan report and agrees with the engineer's comments regarding the sewage system. Historic Saugeen Métis Lands, Resources and Consultation Department reviewed relevant documents and have no objection or opposition to the proposed county official plan amendment, zoning bylaw amendment, and site plan application as presented. The Grey County Transportation staff provided a comment indicating a commercial entrance permit and sign permit are required. The entrance will require 150 meter separation from existing entrances for a Class 2 road. Widening was previously attained on the property, and it appears from the drawing that the county setback for structures is being met. There are no concerns from transportation services. The City of Owen Sound planning staff provided a comment indicating they are in receipt of the attached notice of complete application for County Official Plan Amendment 14 and a related amendment to the Township of Georgian Bluffs zoning bylaw. City staff will provide comments on the applications, endeavoring to forward comments on April 29th. However, they will not be considered by Owen Sound City Council until its meeting on May 9th. Additional comments have not been received from the city for these applications at this time. No comments from members of the public have been received to date. So at this time, I would like to introduce planning consultant Christine Loft from Loft Planning Incorporated to provide more detail on the proposed development. Thank you.
Please go ahead, Christine.
Thank you. Good evening. Christine Loft with Loft Planning Inc. and I'm representing 2765746 Ontario Inc. And with us is Mark Hutton and Ken Hutton. So good evening. I do have a PowerPoint presentation, so maybe staff can just let me know if they'll provide it or if I'm to share a screen. Perfect. Thank you. So we'll just skip to the next slide, please. So the site is located on the west side of Grey Road 18. The site is vacant today. It has a lot area of approximately 20 hectares and a frontage of 151 meters. It is broken up. You can see on the key map that there is a small lot at the front that is owned by the municipality, and perhaps staff can indulge me on a bit more information on that, but it is owned by the municipality, and we do have a letter submitted to the municipality requesting purchase of that small piece of property. The lands are located on the south of Highway 21, being Springmount area. Surrounding uses is the municipal office, just 2 lots to the north, and then the Coca-Cola distribution center, rural woodlands to the west, including the wetlands partially on the property, and then further to the west. To the south is rural and agricultural lands, and then to the east is commercial contractor and a number of rural residential homes along Grey Road 18. Next slide. So the purpose of the application, as staff have indicated, is to redesignate the front portion, which is approximately 6.83 hectares, from rural to space extensive industrial and commercial. The wetland and environmental protection area remain untouched and are not subject to any type of redesignation. The purpose of the zoning bylaw amendment is Similarly, to rezone the same portion of land from the rural RU zone to the highway commercial C4 with a site-specific exception. And the exception will include additional permitted uses, including open storage, accessory, bulk sales establishment, and contractor's yard. It also permits a front yard setback of 17.5 meters where 20 meters is permitted, and to permit a height of 11.5 where 10 meters is permitted. And I just would like to indicate that, and I'll show you a moment in the site plan, but the 17.5 meter setback is actually just the setback from the small lot that the municipality owns. The actual front yard setback from Gray Road 18 is met, and in fact exceeded the setbacks approximately 58 meters. Where the 20 meters is required. So it's really just a result of that small parcel of land existing today. And because it's not in the Hutton ownership, we needed to identify it within the zoning bylaw. Next slide. So the proposed use, I'm actually going to get you just to skip one forward and I'll speak to this slide, but just to have the site plan up, I think it's easier. So there are two main buildings that are proposed. The front building is what we call the main building. It's 465 square meters in size, and it includes the retail area, administration, and a design center. The proposed shop, which is the yellow rectangle in behind that front building, is the proposed shop, 490 square meters, and that includes the shop area, storage, as well as washrooms. And then between those two yellow buildings is a central pergola and landscaped area that will sort of connect the two buildings together. So the application is for the establishment of a landscape business. The application proposes 89 parking spaces, and so the parking spaces are located primarily to the north of the two buildings, and we've labeled it as parking. And there are some parking spaces on the south side as well, as a smaller block, which will be utilized by employees. So there's 89 parking spaces, including 53 on the north side, which would be visitor parking, barrier-free spaces, and then 18 employee spaces located on the south side. And then towards the rear area of the designated and zoned area is the truck trailer parking, which is just vehicle parking for the business vehicles. The proposal does include outdoor storage, and so we've labeled that as landscape supply storage. And this will include storage of mulch, soil, stone, and landscaping supplies. And you'll also see just to the right-hand side of where I have landscape supply storage labeled, there are dock displays in that location as well. There's 3 rectangles there. The proposal includes one access point, which is identified with the red arrows onto Gray Road 18. And there will be landscaped areas along the north boundary as well as the south boundary. Next slide. Sorry, can I just go back to the site plan for just one sec? So the site plan does identify the wetland. I have outlined it in blue, and I'll speak to it in a moment just when I'm talking about the EIS, but there is a 15-meter setback proposed from the wetland, and that's a 15-meter setback to the disturbed area or the area that there would be site works in. And then you can see that there's an extensive setback then to the rear building. It's approximately a 60-meter setback from the wetland boundary to the rear building. And the septic system is located right at the front of the property, really in the southeast corner of the property. The intent there, of course, being to be the greatest distance away from the wetland boundary. Next slide, please. The lands are are designated in the county official plan as rural, wetland, and hazard, which is on the left side of the screen, and then zoned rural RU as well as the EP. So again, the areas are both rural that we're actually speaking about, and the wetland boundary that's identified both in the OP as well as the zoning has been staked on site by SAR Environmental, and generally looks quite similar to what the approved documents are. The SAR report identifies that the wetland is the Long Swamp PSW, and it concluded that development is a distance away with the 15-meter setback, which was a requirement of the environmental impact study, and any drainage. SAR also reviewed the stormwater management report that GM Blue Plan completed and concurred with their stormwater management plans and to maintain drainage away from the wetland. The stormwater drainage is going to the south boundary of the property in a linear swale, and SAR has worked with GM Blue Plan on that in terms of it being an enhanced stormwater management pond in a linear portion and again draining away from the wetland. Next slide. So staff had indicated the reports that have been completed and submitted. So there was an environmental impact study completed by SAR. The county did have further questions, and we've now responded to those questions as well. GM Blue Plan completed a stormwater management study. They prepared the formal site plan, the karst topography assessment, and a bedrock resource opinion letter. So the karst and the bedrock opinions were based on boreholes, and there was no karst found. There were 2 areas that were identified for bedrock on the site. However, GM Blue Plan has concluded that the bedrock would be considered of limited value for extraction. And again, in terms of karst, there was no karst found in any of the boreholes. Arch lines did complete architectural site plan drawings, which I'm going to show you a few in a moment, but there was elevations provided to the municipality as part of the complete submission. And my office prepared the planning justification report as well as the draft amendments. Next slide. And so I just provided a couple of the elevations. So this is the front main building, 465 square meters. It's primarily 1 story, although there is one area that is a 2nd story for the building. And this is the retail and admin area, and as well as a design center. The elevations are identified as having a Scandinavian type style, and both buildings have similar facades. Next slide. And this is the shop building. So again, vertical siding to match the front building. This will be the shop, storage area, and washrooms. And next slide, which is the last slide. And so one more slide, perhaps. Thank you. And so just in summary and within the planning report, I've concluded that the applications do conform to the County of Grey official plan as amended. They comply with the zoning bylaw as proposed and are consistent with provincial policy, and that the applications represent good planning. And those are my comments, and we're happy to answer any questions. And Ken and Mark can aid in that. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Christine, for a great presentation. I'll carry on my script before I get to Mark. No members of the public register of the clerk to provide comments in support of or in opposition to the applicant. The applicants Ken Hutton and Mark Hutton are present this evening, and their consultants Christine Loft and Ian Erickson. Do you have any comments or questions you want to ask? I'll turn it over to Ken and Mark. I believe, are you muted? Oh.
Thank you. Thanks very much. I'm Mark Hutton. Really a pleasure to be here. We're excited about this proposal. So thanks to everyone for taking the time tonight. Yeah, so I am a partner with my brother Ken here in Hutton and Company, Land and Shore, and yeah, we're happy to answer any questions here, but mostly excited about the ongoing growth of the company and our need to relocate, and we're pretty excited about this this development. So happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mark. Ken, any comments?
Yes, thank you. Also, one moment. There we go. Thank you. Also, really appreciate this opportunity and for the presentation, Christine, too. I think also mostly excited as we continue to look forward into the growth and where we're able to be. Looking forward to hearing questions that may help us steer if necessary, but otherwise appreciate your time, and that's it.
Thank you, Ken. And now I'm going to open the floor up to committee members. Any comments or questions from the committee members? Councillor Colburn, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think the questions were answered by the presentation from Christine, so I appreciate that. My questions were going to be around preservation of the wetland area. I know that there's no development in that particular part of the lot, but that it will be in areas adjacent to. So just wanting as much reassurance as possible that that wetland area, the environmental protection area, is not going to be disturbed in the course of developing the lands adjacent to that. So that's my one question. Really happy to see the green roof that you didn't mention in your presentation, but that's awesome. And also happy to hear that there's a proposed drainage stormwater pond, which I think we can all appreciate given the challenges with stormwater management in our municipality. So thank you for that as well.
Thank you, Councillor Colburn. Does any other committee member have any comments? Oh, Christine, please go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. I would just add that the SAR report did conclude a number of recommendations regarding construction around the wetland, so requirements of protection of the wetland during construction, number one. And it also identified that there should be tree planting on the west side of the property. She calls them, I believe, sacrifice plantings, which would provide for more plantings on that west side with respect to birds and other. So there were recommendations that are required to be met as part of the EIS and overall protection of the wetland.
Thank you, Christine. One last time, does the committee members have any comments? Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
I'm just really glad to see this going ahead. I guess my question has to do with setback from the municipal property, and do we know why the municipality owns a piece of land in that spot? Thank you.
Madam CEO, please go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I think that was news to me tonight, so there will be a follow-up on the municipal property. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I was going to ask that same question, but the Deputy Mayor beat me to it. If there's no other questions, I guess we don't need any comments from the county planners. Okay, thank you. Not very often you see a planner not say something, but okay, I have a recommendation here. The report LP 2022-25 for Hutton and Company for application 4203540 OPA 14 Z0422 and SP 0222 be received for information. Someone to move to put it on the floor, please. Moved by Councillor Thompson, second by Councillor Sutherland. Is there any discussion on the motion before us? See none, a show of hands, all in favor? Opposed? The motion is carried. Thank you to all the planners in the house. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
And thank you to the Hutton brothers. Thank you very much. So I'm going to move on for our agenda here tonight. We've no delegations. We've no correspondence. We're now down to staff reports. I'll read the recommendation first, that the draft property standards bylaw as amended to this report be approved, and that a bylaw adopt the draft property standards bylaw be presented for enactment on May 11th, 2022 meeting of council. Someone to move to put on the floor, please. Moved by Councillor Barfoot, second by Councillor Colburn. I'll now turn the floor over to our Deputy CEO, Luke Ryan. Please go ahead, Luke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Would you like me to go on video here?
Yeah, I can't see you, Luke, but I see you're there.
Just fix that here.
Yeah, that's better.
Thank you. So yes, we've brought the property standards bylaw to the committee of the whole for consideration. Basically, our existing bylaw was done in 2013, and it was kind of done based on, just a case precedent that a lot of municipalities use. So we wanted to kind of, cater it more to the issues we deal with at Georgian Bluffs, and fix a couple things that, grammatical errors and things like that along the way as well. So I think the biggest takeaways from the new proposed bylaw would be that we added in a definition for travel trailers and a provision for those as well. We've, in the last few years, have been dealing with, trailers placed on vacant lots where people have taken up residency permanently. And the existing bylaw didn't really have anything that spoke to that. So it kind of gives us a more clear road to take when we have to deal with those issues. Aside from that, we addressed storage containers, or CCANs, otherwise known. They are addressed in our zoning bylaw. So we basically took the requirements from our zoning bylaw and put them into the property standards. The reason being that that allows us a better avenue to address that issue, because the zoning bylaw is very costly to actually prosecute under. So those are the two main takeaways that we are bringing to the table for the new proposed bylaw. Did you have any questions, Carol?
Okay, thank you, Luke. Now I'm going to ask for questions from the committee. And I believe Councillor Barfoot, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much, Luke. And this is long overdue. As you
Yeah.
know, I'm always in there bugging you. How does this affect, we'll say like hunt camps, for example, where a guy owns a piece of property, it's been in the family for a zillion years. They come up once a week, put their trailer on it, hunt, and go home. So how
Right.
does it, I don't want to impair their enjoyment of their property.
No, of course. And there's a process for that, Carol. We have a trailer license bylaw. So the procedure there is they would just apply for a license, and they can still do that.
Thank you, Luke. Carol, did you get your question answered?
Well, sort of. Thank you very much, Luke. What about existing conditions? And I can't mention the place I'm talking about, but you know about it because I was in there last week speaking to you and Tim. Well, guess what? It's exploded. It's far worse than it was before. What are we doing about stuff like that? It's not the property owner's junk.
Right.
Madam CEO?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, and to Councillor Barfoot, I think where we have to be cautious, Councillor Barfoot, is we're updating our bylaw. I think if there are specific situations where there's identifiable properties or identifiable people, we might want to have those conversations in offline as opposed to in public. I think in terms of the trailer question that was asked previously, really the focus is on people who are leaving things there permanently, as opposed to, as Mr. Ryan has indicated, there is a licensing process for somebody to use their property on more of a temporary basis. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam CEO. Councilor Barfoot, please go ahead.
And that's, well, fine and dandy, Madam CAO. However, some of these situations I've been talking about with the township in excess of 3 years. They are not getting any better. In fact, I went by there yesterday and it was far worse than ever before. And Luke, you and Tim know the place I'm talking about. I'm not going to mention it, but it is a real sore thumb for the municipality of Georgian Bluffs to have that as a front and center business. That's the places I want to protect our existing businesses. Madam CAO, you know the place I'm talking about. So I'm sick of harping about the same thing over and over and over. Do something.
Thank you, Councilor Barfoot. I believe that the main purpose of this tonight is to improve our service. Councilor Colburn, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And a question, if I may, through you to Luke. One of the issues that we've dealt with a few times too that's been difficult to resolve is part of your report, of course, and that's drainage of water from one property that might impact an adjacent property. So in the event that I know that you've changed some of the wording in that in terms of draining from, you know, roof lines or from one property to another, if that water that's draining from a property is causing flooding and standing water for a period of time on the adjacent property such that they can't do their yard maintenance, has that issue been addressed, and is that going to be easier for you folks to decide whether there's been an infraction or not?
Please go ahead, Luke.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, it has, in the way of that there should be a swale in between, you know, adjacent properties. And that is the responsibility of those property owners. So when there isn't a swale, that is their responsibility. It's not the township's responsibility. So I think there was some, you know, muddy water there because we were getting complaints that really we couldn't address through the bylaw, but the bylaw wasn't worded well. So it was kind of seeming like we had to address it. So we tried to fix that issue.
Right. And so if it's an existing properties that don't have a swale between them, yet right, one property might have a swale on the other side of their property, are they required to drain into the existing swale, even though the water that they're draining, for example, from a garage roof, that building might be on the opposite side? So is there a requirement for them to use an existing swale, even though it's not altogether convenient for them to do so?
Luke, go ahead.
Sure. The bylaw speaks to roof systems and, you know, downspouts and where they're supposed to be positioned. So where there is an existing swale, they would have to use the existing swale or maintain that swale if it's not working properly.
Thank you.
Thank you, Luke. Deputy Mayor Carlin, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My question has to do with the C-cans. Now, I understand not having those on a smaller residential lot, but what about somebody who's, say, further out in the country or on a larger lot and has a home business and wants to use one of those for storage? Is there any way of them applying and getting a permit to have those there, or is it just quite simply they can't have them at all?
No, I'll clear that up. So basically the storage containers speak to residential lots under 2 acres. So residential only being like R1 or shoreline residential zones. So stuff in the agricultural zoning, that's over 2 acres, then they're permitted to have them there. They just need to get a permit and clad it appropriately.
Thank you, Luke.
Thank you.
Did that answer your question? Does the committee have any other questions? See none, I'm going to ask for a vote on the motion on the floor. Show of hands, all in favor of the motion? Opposed? The motion is carried. So I'll move on for our agenda. Public question period. Madam Clerk, has anybody registered? No? Okay. We're down to unfinished business. We have none. New business, we have none. I'm now down to notice of motion. I believe Councilor Colburn, you have a notice of motion. Please go ahead.
I do. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will be bringing forward a motion to likely the next council meeting regarding participation of council members in committees and working groups and task forces. I would like to have some more clear parameters regarding how many committees we're participating in, as well as implementing some ways to sort of have a concrete assessment done of how effective the committees that we're involved in really are. I think we have a bit of a willy-nilly system when it comes to committee participation in working groups, and I would like to see us have a more deliberate plan so that our time is used wisely and so that the associated costs with attending committee meetings and working groups is spent on behalf of the taxpayers in an effective and an efficient kind of a way. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor Colburn. I believe you'll work with the clerk to bring that notice of motion forward.
I have it drafted. I will absolutely send it forward.
Thank you. Councilor Barfoot, please go ahead.
Okay, I've been waiting for probably 4 or 5 years to see this motion come forward. Some people are overloaded with committees. Other people have none. I have one. Some councillors have been on the same committee for years. When you have new councillors, they should be getting more experience thinking of the future of the municipality. So thank you, Councillor Colburn, for this thought. It's long overdue. It should have happened years ago. I've listened to everyone on this council, myself included, say, we stand for openness. We stand for integrity. We're not sharing anything. I don't hear things that are going on at the county the way we used to. So this is a well-needed motion. Thank you, Councillor Colburn. And I hope the rest of council sits up and takes note to what I'm saying. Before you cut me off, Mr. Mayor.
I won't do that, Councillor Barfoot.
Don't be cutting me off and kicking me out. I'm not in chambers.
I'm not, I won't do that, Councillor Barfoot. We'll have this discussion when Councillor Colburn brings a motion forward at our next council meeting, I believe, Madam Clerk. So we'll have a great discussion at that time. Councillor Barfoot, please go ahead.
Okay, let's make one thing really clear. Set the time frame aside, Madam Clerk or whoever, that it can be discussed. I'm tired of being cut off by a couple people because I voice an opinion. I've been around for a few years. I'm not laying down yet. So let's discuss it openly, honestly, and let our ratepayers know what we really stand for.
Thank you, Councillor Barfoot, for your comments. So there's no other notice of motions here tonight. Seeing that, I'm going to move forward with no closed session here tonight. None. Our next regular council meeting is May 11th at 5 o'clock. And if we have no other business here tonight, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn. Moved by Councillor Pringle, second by Councillor Thompson. We adjourn. If there's no discussion, the show of hands, all in favor of adjournment. Opposed? We are now adjourned. Thank you, everybody.